Redditors, this came to mind when I was in Jamaica a few days ago. We were working for Dan Rather Reports, and I remembered a previous trip to Jamaica a long while ago, very late 1970s. Bob Marley was at or near the peak of his world renown and popularity. We came down to do a story on the Rastafarians. Rastafarians are a segment of the Jamaican population which at that time bore allegiance to Haile Selassie, who was the king of Ethiopia. I know this gets complicated, but Rastafarianism was deep into a religious, I would say, some would say semi-religious, some would say cult, but the Rastafarians were their own very Jamaican thing, with this strange allegiance to the strange outsiders' allegiance to the emperor of Ethiopia, Haile Selassie. We went down for 60 minutes to do two things. One, to profile the Rastafarians. Who are the Rastafarians? What are the Rastafarians? And that Bob Marley, whose history and life was intertwined with Rastafarianism. And so in the course of doing this profile on the Rastafarians, we were hoping to interview the great, now the late great Bob Marley. A long negotiation ensued trying to do an interview with Bob Marley, as you would expect, worldwide superstar. And we waited literally for days negotiating with Marley's people about when to do the interview, how to do the interview. They clearly they were in a delay mode. They weren't quite sure they wanted to do the interview, and also we thought, well, it must be something else wrong. So after several days' wait, it was agreed, okay, he's just going to walk out of his house. It's not going to be a long interview. He's just going to walk out the front door, maybe stand or sit on the steps and talk for a few minutes. We were relieved and thrilled, of course. Finally, we thought it was going to happen. So we were there, and Bob Marley appears at the doorway. And I mean this with no disrespect. Remember who Bob Marley was and what the times were. He had a huge ganja. I mean, we're talking like this. He appears at the front door. He just barely walks out the front door, and then he derricks. He completely collapses before we can do anything, and was quickly pulled back in. That's all I saw of him. That was the only time I saw him. It turned out that Bob Marley was quite ill. One of the more interesting and puzzling experiences at the time, you can imagine our excitement, our being pleased, listen, we're going to get an interview with Bob Marley, and to our shock and amazement, walks out the front door, puts the ganja up for a second, boom, back inside. That's the end of that. We did do the Rastafarian story for 60 minutes.